Hi, good morning. Welcome, everyone. Masi for joining us today. We'd like to get started in a few moments, but give folks a chance to join us. While we are waiting for them, I'd just like to share some tech tips with everyone. First off, we do encourage everyone to chat with us during today's event. You can find the chat feature in the very middle of your panel box at the bottom, the icon labeled chat. If you click that, you'll be able to send us a message. And if you'd all take a moment now to share with us in the chat feature where you are from, where you are joining us, we'd very much appreciate that. Also, we do have French translation available for those who may desire it. To access translation, you can click the translation button on the top far right of your control panel. You click interpretation, a drop-down menu will appear, and you can select French. While we are not offering Indigenous translation for today's event, we do want everybody to know that that is very important to the ILI, and it's something that we will work towards for the future. And finally, as folks join, if anybody is having any technical difficulties, we do have a technical help email line set up. So you can email help@ilinationhood.ca. All right. Okay, let's get started. I'm seeing so many amazing people sharing where they're from throughout Canada. So Masi, welcome. My name is Dati Tetso Suje. I am from Fort Simpson, Northwest Territories. Tlitlikwen Gotsen Ate. I am Clicho Dene, Si Clicho Dene Ote. And today I am so very thankful with my whole heart that you are joining us. Dutsene Sinye Naheainda Gotse Sedze Tamasinethe. I am the Deputy Director of the Indigenous Leadership Initiative. Previously, I worked with our regional government here in the Dehcho, and in those roles, I helped build a regional guardians program known as Dehcho Keondi. I also helped play a supporting role, leading the finalization of the Adeji protected area. And today, on behalf of the Indigenous Leadership Initiative, I would like to welcome you to our 2021 First Nations Guardians Gathering. I'd like to say a special thank you to all the Guardians, Indigenous leaders, and elders joining us today. Today kicks off a virtual First Nations Guardians event, and we know that in our following days for registered participants, we have close to 600 participants joining us. And today, during our live stream event, we expect nearly 2,000 folks joining us through Facebook Live. So we are thrilled to have everyone joining us. We think this great turnout is indicative of a building movement from coast to coast to coast on Guardians. And before we formally begin our events today, it's important that we take a moment to pause and reflect and recognize the 215 children that were discovered in Kamloops, BC. I know that this discovery has deeply impacted all of us. As an intergenerational survivor of residential school systems myself, I have experienced that trauma being triggered across my family, across my community, and I've seen it triggered across this country. Collectively, we are grieving these children. The theme for this year's gathering is Yundagoa Ethlehea Tsitsi. And in Dene, this means together for a future. This theme reflects the very heart of Guardian work. And to me personally, this work expressed in our language represents resilience. It represents the strength of all those who were strong in their culture, strong in their knowledge, strong in their language, and found a way to pass that on to the next generation. So to me, this work and this year's theme, Expressed in Dene, offers hope. It represents a reclamation of what those schools tried to take from us. And with that, I'd like to take a moment to introduce one of our senior ILI leadership advisors, Bev Sellers. Bev has graciously agreed to speak a little bit more about the children that were found. Bev is a former counselor in chief of the Heiltsuk First Nation. She also served as an advisor to the BC Treaty Commission. Bev is a prominent historian and a renowned author. She wrote a book entitled They Called Me Number One. That book is her memoir of her experiences at the St. Joseph's Mission in Williams Lake, BC. The book won a 2014 George Riga Award for Social Awareness and has been a finalist for several other awards. Bev, thank you for joining us today to speak about these painful events.
Thank you, Dati. I was going to say Juchinuch to everyone, and in the Secwepemc language, that means that's the greeting in the morning, and it means we survived the night, but I realize some of you have started your afternoon session, so welcome everybody and good day to everyone. So on behalf of the Indigenous Leadership Initiative, I am here to acknowledge and pay respects to the 215 children who were found in a massive grave at the Tk'emlúps residential school in my home territory, the Secwepemc territory. The horrific find came as no surprise to many in the Indigenous communities who know firsthand or heard the rumors about all these children's deaths, and guaranteed there will be other discoveries such as this, now that the technology is there. So graves of children were also found at the Muskowekwan Residential School in Saskatchewan a couple of years ago, and we mourn and honor them as well. And we cannot forget the many students like Chani Wenjack who ran away from the school only to freeze to death trying to find his way home. We acknowledge the late Gordon Downey for his song about Chani and for taking the time as a Canadian to really understand this part of Canadian history. There are probably hundreds and maybe even thousands of Chani Wenjacks who did not make it home from the 130 to 140 residential schools that operated across Canada over a period of approximately 100 years. We also need to acknowledge the suicides and the fallout of many destroyed lives as a result of the schools. There are other atrocities that many of us know about, but those stories are not ours to tell. And we hope that those who have those stories find the strength to come forward and tell them. I have to tell you that what did shock me about the finding of the graves was that the House of Commons and some provincial government buildings lowered their flags to half-mast. That, of course, should have been a given, but for many Indigenous peoples, we are so used to our voices being ignored or silenced. We thank Canadians for this gesture in remembrance of our children. That is a small step in the right direction of acknowledging the whole truth about Canadian history. But they need to quit calling it a chapter in Canadian history. A chapter can be easily glossed over or skipped altogether. Our people were here before everyone else, and the Indigenous experience with the new people needs to be front and center in every chapter of Canadian history. Otherwise, what they are writing is inaccurate. But that's a topic for another day. And to those who are grieving, cry if you need to for all that we are still going through, but know that your tears will give you strength. I know this from personal experience. When I was writing my book about my time spent at the residential school, I cried enough tears to fill a swimming pool. But It allowed me to grow, to understand myself, and to be able to help others. And that is what you are doing now with the important work in your communities, your territories, and on the land and waters. We acknowledge all the children who suffered and died, but we also acknowledge the great work you are doing to reclaim your voices, your history, and your obligation to future generations. We look forward to hearing from all of you over the next few days, and we raise our hands to the work you are doing for the love of your territories and the love of your people. Guxjajam. Thank you.
Masi Bev. We would like to honor the children with 215 seconds of silence. This piece of artwork was shared with us from Luann Ikawega Neal. Masi to Luann for sharing this beautiful image. She created it to honor the souls of all the children who were taken from their families, villages, and nations. As a residential school survivor of the Alberni Residential School, she wanted people to know that there's nothing more powerful than when we stand together. And with that, we will begin 215 seconds of silence to honor the children. Masi everyone. And with the conclusion of our moments of silence, we would now like to enter into a opening fire feeding ceremony. This fire feeding was led by Chief Gerald Antoine here in Llŷdli Cwem. The drummers of my community offered up their prayers for everyone across the country who are embarked on this work and joining us for this gathering. Please note that while the video starts in Dene Jati, and there's no translation offered during the video, Chief Gerald Antoine will translate the words as the video progresses. Finally, a final technical consideration before we do play the video, that if you are experiencing lag, we do apologize. However, we will share links to any of the videos we shared during the gathering so that you may watch it again without lag. So with that, I'd like to offer my heartfelt merci to Chief Gerald Antoine for his support in organizing this fire feeding and for offering prayers to all of those who are joining us today and for all of the guardians across the country who are doing this very important work. The children of the residential school, the news of that was breaking as we were doing the fire feeding. And in the video, Chief Gerald Antoine explains how our ancestors stand with us when we do ceremony. And so I just want to acknowledge that recognition, even if it's indirect, and to point out to everyone that personally I will be wearing these orange beads in their honor throughout our time together this week. So Masi, and if we could play the video, please.
Hello, my name is Jerry, and I'm the chief of Llŷdli Cwem First Nation. The community that I come from is Llŷdli Cwem. He just wanted to share with you that the fire is something, and feeding the fire is something that is very beneficial for us and the way that we do things. And when the fire is hot like this, the fire is very strong, he says. And he also mentions that when this is put together, we may not see our ancestors here, but they're all standing here with us. And so when, and they're here and they're listening to us. And so the work that they do on that side of the world there is that they humbly request things on our behalf with the things that we offer and with the words that we share, with the thinking that we have, and us putting this into the fire. He says this is how they have this special relationship with us. And so he also mentioned is that with the elders is that they really share these things. And he said that from his experience is that even as small as he was, when they were doing this, there were tears coming from him. And so the things that we need, which we are doing today, is something that is really special. And it's also, there's things that we also need to think about, is that we have little ones. He has really thoughtful, hopeful thoughts that the young boys will also be mentored to use the drum. And he says the drum, the drum is that he says, even though you may not be playing it, even though you're taking care of it, it's still something good and it's still powerful. What he would like to see is the young boys to be mentored in using the drum. So that way they can be able to continue sharing the drums and the songs the way that we are today. The other thing that I wanted to just add is that what he shared is being out on the land, you're present with all the things that we know as human beings. One thing he mentioned is that when you're at a fire like this, and he says, when the fire farts, he says, this is where it's giving you a message, and that you need to be able to offer to the fire. And so, and the other thing is that when you have a good fire like this, and you're cooking things with the fire, and then when you're using the food and you're also feeding it, he says our ancestors that are with us, they get so happy. They really appreciate that they could be able to eat with you. And so this is the thing that he had shared with us. Masi.
Masti Chief Gerald Antoine, and to our Decho elders for starting us off in a good way and leading that fire feeding event. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Val. Valerie Coutoir is our director of the Indigenous Leadership Initiative. She is a registered forester and our fearless leader at the ILI. So over to you, Val.
Well, thank you so much, Dati, and a big heartfelt thank you to Chief Gerald Antoine and the Decho Dene elders for preparing that fire feeding ceremony and, you know, starting us off in a good way, in the right way. I'd also acknowledge Bev and Dati, your words about the children were just so touching this morning. Thank you so much for leading us into a moment of reflection and prayer for those children and that tragedy that unfortunately we know is larger than what was found. I am a member of the Innu community of Mistuyats, located on the shores of Piquagamit, also known as Lac Saint-Jean in now what is known as Quebec. I'm joining you today from Dasinan, my nation's homeland, now also known as Goose Bay in Labrador. It's an honor to welcome you to the third Guardians Gathering. Believe it or not, we're at number 3. I'll never forget that in 2016, when we held our first gathering, over 150 Guardians gathered at that time. We shared many strategies for everything from small engine repair to nation-to-nation negotiations. And interestingly enough, many had commented that that was the first time they met other Guardians from other nations. And then I'll never forget our previous gathering in April of 2019, when more than 300 Guardians packed a hotel room in downtown Vancouver and talked about the pride that comes from representing their nations. And some danced awfully hard to Buffy Sainte-Marie, Cashton, and Bitterly Divine. And now today, we will, of course, never forget this odd virtual version of the gathering. We are, of course, disappointed that we could not be in person at this time. We would, of course, have preferred to see you all and have those exchanges happen in person, but we thought it was more important to meet than to wait for that possibility. And so that's why we've decided to host this gathering virtually. You'll notice that we've made particular efforts to make this as informative and interactive as possible. There will be breakout rooms. There will be lots of opportunities for you all to engage, polls, different contests, all kinds of things. Please do check out the participants webpage for those of you logged on to Zoom and registered as participants. I know we'll be spending the next few days learning from one another, celebrating the work of Guardians, and building momentum for Indigenous-led conservation and stewardship right across this country. And we might succeed in getting you to dance in your seats. Stay tuned. It's really great to see this momentum growing. You know, in 2016, when we hosted the first gathering, there was just over 30 programs that were running across the country. Now, there are over 70 Guardian programs and 25 more in the design phase. That means since 2016, the number of programs have tripled. Guardians are really at the forefront of a movement growing up from the land, the elders, the youth, and all calling for Indigenous leadership on that land. People are increasingly recognizing that connecting with culture, healing from trauma, and feeling pride and identity is all rooted in that land. Like our elders tell us, if we take care of the land, it will take care of us. Honoring the cultural responsibility to the land is how we restore our communities. This is what we've heard from Bev earlier this morning. It's how we inspire our youth. It's how we reclaim our food sovereignty. It's how we grow our economy. And it's how we assert our nationhood. Guardians, you help make all of that possible. Imagine how vibrant our lands and communities will be when every single First Nation who wants a program has one, where hundreds, thousands of Guardians are right across this landscape, caring for our lands for the benefit of all. That is the future that the Indigenous Leadership Initiative is working to create. We want to build this future not just for our own communities, but for all peoples who call Canada home. I'm reminded of something Gloria Enzo said at the first Guardians gathering. Gloria was a Nihatni Dene Guardian with the Lutselk'e Dene First Nation. Note that Lutselk'e just recently won the UN Equator Prize. That was the first time that was awarded in Canada, and we share and celebrate with you, Lutselk'e, on your success with Taida Nenene and with your Nihatni Dene program. Gloria at the time said We are sustaining our traditional territory, not only for us, but for the whole world. Our ecosystem is so pure. We have so many trees. We have fresh water. We have clean air. When I think about the Nihatni Dene and what it means we are protecting Mother Earth in order for the rest of the world to live on her. That's the work of Guardians. And it's why we need it more now than ever. Climate change is accelerating. Animals and plants are disappearing. Fresh waters are becoming contaminated. We must stem the tide. Canada has pledged to tackle these crises. As part of the international effort to sustain biodiversity, for instance, Canada has committed to protecting 30% of lands and fresh waters by 2030. It's an ambitious goal on a short timeline. But fortunately, really, Canada is only catching up to Indigenous peoples' ambitions. Indigenous peoples have been stepping up to this challenge. We have the stewardship expertise, the knowledge systems, and the proven models. We can help Canada respond to environmental crises and meet international commitments because we're already doing it. Many Indigenous nations are creating land use plans, or as we prefer to call them, land relationship plans. On average, these plans call for conserving well over 50% of their traditional territories. In fact, I did a little napkin calculation, and the land use plans that we've worked with have all, on average, protected over 60% of their landscapes. These same lands often store enormous amounts of carbon in the boreal soils and wetlands. Scientists say these nature-based climate solutions, or essentially the land taking care of us, can deliver 1/3 of the emissions reductions needed to meet the Paris Climate Agreement goals. Many nations are also creating Indigenous protected and conserved areas, new models of conservation that reflect Indigenous laws and cultures. In the last 10 years, 85 to 90% of all new protected areas in Canada have either been led or co-led by Indigenous nations. From Akamiya-Bishk, Millie Mountains National Park here in Labrador, to Tsuut'ina Tuyeta and Taitanene and Deji in the Northwest Territories. In 2019, over 25 IPCA proposals were funded by the federal government as a part of its plan to meet biodiversity commitments. If those plans are to be realized, over 500,000 square kilometers would be protected, and decades, the equivalent of decades of Canada's emissions in carbon would be stored. Of course, this is not news to people. In fact, a UBC study looked at lands in Canada, Australia, and Brazil and found that the number of birds, mammals, reptiles, species of all kinds were highest on lands managed by Indigenous communities. IPBES, the biodiversity arm of the UN, also stated that over 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity is located on lands, on Indigenous lands, on lands controlled by Indigenous peoples. Why? It's no accident. Our own values sustain those lands, and they are loved and cared for by all of us. We are on the ground doing the work that matters not only for our communities, but also to other Canadians and their governments. Our nations are extending an opportunity to partner with Canada to solve the biggest environmental challenges of our time. Indigenous-led conservation offers this country the most effective way to achieve international biodiversity and climate goals. Our leadership on the land and the promise of our partnerships are gaining greater recognition. Scientists are confirming it, as I've just stated in those research papers. Former Prime Minister Paul Martin has called Guardians a gift to Canada. Corporate leaders from finance, transportation, industry, other sectors have urged Canada to support Guardians and Indigenous-led conservation. We even heard from Han Solo. Actor Harrison Ford posted a video saying, if you want clean water, a safe place for animals, and a more stable climate, join me and sign up at landneedsguardians.ca. And support is growing at the highest levels of government. Prime Minister Trudeau repeatedly talks about the significance of partnering with Indigenous peoples to meet biodiversity and climate goals. In fact, during a UN summit on biodiversity last September, Prime Minister Trudeau talked about Canada's commitment to protect 30% of land and waters by 2030 and said, quote, "The way we're going to do it is the way we have worked on it so far, which is by working with Indigenous peoples who need to be partners in protecting the land," end quote. Also, at their first official meeting, Prime Minister Trudeau and President Biden singled out the leadership of Indigenous nations, agreeing in their statements to, quote, "be partners in protecting nature, including by supporting Indigenous-led conservation efforts," end quote. This recognition is growing because of your work and your results on the ground. Our call is being heard. In April, the Government of Canada released its new budget, the first one in 2 years, and included a historic $2.3 billion in nature conservation to sustain biodiversity, fight climate change, and create jobs. While we do not know the specifics of those allocations, it specifically references Indigenous protected and conserved areas as a critical solution to sustaining biodiversity. It also says to support Indigenous guardians is one of the 5 priorities identified for the $2.3 billion. It's a promising development. Canada is increasingly placing Indigenous-led conservation at the center of its biodiversity strategy. Now, we look forward to seeing this commitment reflected in investments on the ground. We need more guardians. We need more IPCAs, and we need more of our nations enabled to fulfill their cultural responsibilities. The Land Needs Guardians campaign, which we launched a year ago in January 2020, to an audience of senators, members of parliament, prominent Canadians, has now grown to over 65,000 supporters. By the way, those of you who have not yet joined the Land Needs Guardians, please check it out, landneedsguardians.ca. Sign up. We need your voice. The ILI has been helping to feed this campaign in the last year, but it is our hope that it really becomes your platform, a platform for your own voices, guardian voices, to shape and flesh out yourselves. If you want to know more about how to do that, please do get in touch with the ILI. We'd love to have your voices featured on that site. Finally, in order to get us started in an inspiring way, I'd like to screen a couple videos that'll give you a feel for that campaign and the momentum it's created.
We have always taken care of our lands. Guardians can be there to take care of the land, take care of the water. The land is healing for them. It's so important for them to try and make our planet better because the land needs guardians.
We are blessed in our country with abundant natural resources, but they are not permanent. They can be destroyed.
Indigenous peoples are using their knowledge to care for land and waters as they have for thousands of years.
As a traditional land steward in my home territory, it's so great to see other nations taking on these important initiatives for the communities.
The Land Needs Guardians campaign is really important.
It's just amazing how many people are involved.
C'est une campagne positive, c'est une campagne qui mobilise, c'est une campagne qui va rassembler.
It's exactly what we need right now.
The work they do benefits each of us.
I look forward to more Canadians learning more about this very important Canadian initiative.
Je veux que vous répondiez à la demande de la campagne.
Land needs guardians.
Land needs guardians.
The land needs guardians.
The land needs guardians.
Land needs guardians.
Land needs guardians.
The land needs more guardians.
Having the guardians on the land is so important. We have the eyes and ears on the land, protecting the land.
Human beings as a whole haven't been doing great to this earth.
If we don't start doing something now to try and protect that, then things could be like looking pretty sad.
And that's what's fun about being a guardian, trying to save the planet little bit by bit.
The Guardians patrol this area for environmental concerns, wildlife observations.
It is very important that the Guardians are on the water every single day to keep a watchful eye on what is actually going on.
This whole climate change thing causes water levels to drop. I never want there to be no fish. It's all about the fish, man. All about the fish.
There's quite a few Guardians now, and we need more.
Want to see initiatives to save our planet? This is it.
That land is important to us, especially as Indigenous people.
It's the very soul of what we are.
To be a part of the Guardian, to me, is beyond anything I can explain.
Hi, folks. Welcome back. I wonder if I could be spotlighted by the tech team, please. Thank you very much. What great videos, eh? Oh, if you can find more at the landneedsguardians.ca website. And luckily, you will be in for some world premieres during this gathering of more videos that I think you will love. Before we move to our first official panel, I'd like to introduce Nijitsel Norbert. You know, in order to record, witness, and you know, best report on this gathering, we've asked Nijitsel to do graphic recordings during the gathering. And I thought I'd take a moment just to introduce Nijitsel, and you will see her. There she is. You will see her a few times during the gathering, sharing her artwork, including this afternoon. And so she's in front of her board. You can see there. She works in the classic way, and we are so thrilled that she is here. Nijitsel Norbert is a multidisciplinary artist, land defender, and advocate. She was born and raised in Denendeh, or Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. In 2019, she planted her Gwich'in roots in their ancestral home of Inuvik. In 2013, she graduated from the Ontario College of Art and Design with a bachelor's degree of fine arts in photography. We share that passion, Nijitsel. Norbert started her graphic recording and illustrative services to give voice to individuals, communities, and organizations to amplify good work. And that's why she's here with us today. She's currently an appointed board member for the Gwich'in Land and Water Board, along with being an appointed panel member for the Giant Mine Remediation Project of the Mackenzie Valley Land and Water Board. Within her art and within her life, she likes to speak simply, honestly, and without fear. Nijitsel, we can't think of a better person to be helping us be a witness and recording all of the great information and stories and sharing that will happen here. Chinush Committin, thank you so much for being here with us. And if you wanted to say just a quick hello, and then we will see you again after.
Merci Val, Banklin Z, Nijitsel Norbert, Shutsu Kaikit Dangochin. Good morning, everyone. I feel so grateful to be here with you over the next 4 days, and I'm attempting to finish 4 large posters to document and capture the beautiful messages and the celebration and the challenges that the Guardians programs are having. And I just look forward to amplifying your voices. And also I just wanted to take a minute and think about my father, who was a residential school survivor, and all those who are survivors or intergenerational survivors. I will be thinking about you today. So Haicho Masi.
Masi Cho Nijitsel, thank you so much for being here with us. At this time, we're going to get to what is a personal favorite portion of the agenda for today. And I would like to invite Shauna Yeomans Lindstrom, Tanya Ball, Amberly Kwakajizik, and William Alger to join us on screen for our reverse town hall. Hello, nice to see you guys.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Right on.
Morning, everyone.
Hello, Denta.
Hi there.
Tech team, can you confirm that they are all spotlighted and we can see you? Thank you. All right. Here we come. Right on. Nice to see you guys. Thank you for joining on this great day. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce to you these four, what I call rock stars. These are individuals who've just been killing it on the ground. And I can't wait for you guys to meet them, to hear their stories and their experiences and be inspired by those stories and experiences. So first, we have Shauna Yeomans Lindstrom. Shauna is the Guardian Liaison for the Taku River Tlingit. Shauna, you know, you were there at the launch of the Land Needs Guardians campaign over a year ago, and we've just been huge fans of the work that you've been doing on the ground, just taking care of the Taku and of your territories. So thank you so much for being here with us. Tanya Ball. Tanya is a friend who I had some joys of spending some time in the mountains of the Yukon with Tanya a few years ago. She is the Land Guardian Coordinator for the Dene Kaya Institute and the Kaska Nation. Tanya is a mom and a wonderful, technologically savvy guardian. She could really show you a thing or two about interactive maps, and hopefully you'll get a chance to visit and see some of her work. You can check out the Dene Kaku-san website, and there's a beautiful map story that Tanya was involved in building on that website. Check it out at Tech Gurus if you have an ability to share that website. I know I didn't warn you about this one, but that would be great. Amberly Kwekajizik, my favorite last name to pronounce. Amberly is from Wakatoan. Wakatoan is a network of communities on the North Shore of Lake Superior. And she works with a long time friend of mine, David Flood, a fellow forester. We've been proud supporters of the work of Wakatoan, and Amberly is a wonderful storyteller, as is Tanya. So you will hear about those stories a little bit later on in the gathering. William Alger. William, I am so pleased that you've joined us here today. William is a guardian for the Klitikwe Dene First Nation. William, you know, your story, I can't wait for people to hear your story. Every time I hear it, I am completely inspired. And I think you are in many ways a face of many of our youth today. So I'm really looking forward to people hearing a little bit more about that story. So let's dive right in. Are you guys ready? Good to go? Right on. So how about we start with a question about your own personal journey to becoming a gathering. How did that happen? And, you know, what were the pathways that led you to this, well, you know, and I hate to call it a job, to this responsibility, to this career, to this vocation as people? Why don't we jump to you, Shauna?
Ganesh, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm really excited to be here. I have been a guardian since 2016. I was able to go to one of the first guardian gatherings, and it really got hooked me in, and I've been there since. And so I went home in 2016 and I saw a job posting. It was a seasonal job. I wasn't expecting to stay there for that long. I thought it was just going to be a summer job. And it was really something else. It was able to really open a lot of doors and really reconnect me into my community more deeper than I thought. And so it was a really interesting journey, and yeah, I'm excited to dive a little more deep into that. Yeah, I can pass it on to someone else.
Thanks, Shanna. Tanya, you know, you've been on a long journey in becoming a guardian. This has been a road for you. Can you tell us more about that?
Hi, Denta, everyone. Yeah, so in 2010, I was accepted into a Caring for the Land initiative through the Yukon Mine Training. And before that, I was kind of doing stuff as cook jobs, working in social services, justice, and I just felt like I didn't find where I belonged yet. So I was kind of just checking everything out. And I took this course, and ever since then, it was kind of an environmental monitoring course. So it just kept going on from there. I worked in a lot of mine sites as an environmental monitor, assistant, and I went to school in 2012 for my Earth and Environmental Studies, and Kareem Porter, the executive director of Denekai Institute, who oversees the Denanonyetta Land Guardian Network, called me actually on the day of my graduation. So I've been with DKI since the 2014, and Kareen and I met with the TRTFN, Taku River First Nation Land Guardians then, and they've kind of assisted helping build our program, which started in 2015. And our program was based just during the hunting season, from the peaks of the months of July to the end of October, just on community feedback, you know, a lot of concerns that came in about wildlife being poached, environmental concerns, garbage dumping. So our Guardian program started in 2015, just 5 months out of the year. And now we're working year round with our Guardians. We have 3 communities with full-time Guardians. And it's just kind of snowballed, and we're kind of right from water monitoring to wildlife observations, and getting more people involved in the program as we go, community members, youth, elders, and it's just kind of been an amazing trip. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here, and how many more people we can get involved and touch about with the work that we do and the importance of it.
Kimberly, how about you in Wakatoan? You guys have been kind of growing your network slowly. By the way, Wakatoan is located in Ontario, for those who may not know. What was your journey to becoming a guardian?
Hi. Actually, I feel like my journey started when I was like 15. I started working for the Ministry of Natural Resources, and there I received a lot of training, a lot of job shadowing, got to experience a lot of programs that were designed around conservation and stewardship, and I ended up doing 11 summers working there, and, you know, going to school and stuff, and really filling my bundle with a variety of skills and experiences and knowledge, and all the stuff that like benefits me today still. And I can't express how important it is to, you know, try something new and get out there and, you know, reconnect with the land and stuff. And I learned a lot about, you know, what kind of job I want or what I don't want. And I feel like both of those things are equally important, because it helped me to find my pathway. I went to school numerous times. It was a struggle to figure out what I wanted to do, I feel, but there's something about where I am today that makes sense. I'm happy, and I just want to be able to recreate like this opportunity and, you know, open doors for others as well. Yeah.
William, your journey started quite young in this pathway. Can you tell us a little bit more about your journey?
Well, I guess the seeds that were first planted in my journey when I was about maybe 7 or 8, when I was with a foster family who worked on behalf of Deitcho First Nations. And then I went to these Deitcho First Nations assemblies in different communities throughout the Deitcho when I was younger. And then that's how I got to know Dati and several other members of the Deitcho First Nations community. And through that, when I got a little bit older, I started attending these on the land programs through Dati. She heavily implored me to get into these. So as the age of 7 or 8, I guess that's when I started getting into what it means to be a Deitcho First Nations member. And then as soon as I was too old to be an active participant in her programs, I became a youth worker, a youth mentor, or an apprentice, something along the line. And then back in 2018, I believe, is when the first Guardian program in Klilikoya began. And I've been the Guardian ever since. Thank you.
Thanks, William. So what does a day-to-day look like to you guys? I mean, I know there is no typical Guardian day, but like, what are some of the things that you do in your day, Shauna?
So I'm working as a Guardian liaison this year, and so one of my main objectives is working with other departments and trying to collaborate on programs and projects that could be overlapped. We're also working towards, in the last few years, we've also been reaching out and trying to do a little bit more cultural support within our community. And so heading into the busy summer season, we have been really, really busy planning some really exciting things this year. Yeah, I have a few notes here. So a day-to-day in our office can look like multiple different meetings. For myself, I'm in multiple discussions on how we can make some of our engagement a little bit more meaningful and more, how can we accommodate the community more instead of making programs to fit our agendas and the nation's agendas, how can we accommodate the community a little bit more nicely? We are planning to support a Tlingit language. We're also bringing in more decolonized training into our Guardian program. And so this year we have 2 new Guardians joining us, and they will be, and myself will be doing a Tlingit language intensive week, which is really exciting. And then a few weeks after that, we're going to be assisting one of our language programs to do a Tlingit language immersion hike, which is really great. In December, we had a massive landslide in one of the main stems of, or the sacred places in our territory, the Taku River. We experienced a huge landslide. And so in the months after that, in the coming months, looking forward, we're going to be doing more landslide monitoring, just to see what caused it. You know, are we going to be experiencing more landslides, and just to get more information on that. We're also working with our RE-Law team to really dig down deeper into revitalizing our Tlingit laws and our ways of life. We've been engaging in, last year and this year, we've been engaging in doing some community food fishing. And so our community provides community food fish, but we've put a lot of pressure on our food fishers and stuff. And so we're realizing that that's an area that Guardians can play a really important role, and archaeology monitoring. So we're all over the place and we love it. So goodness.
Gosh, I'm almost exhausted with all that menu of things that you're going to be doing, Shauna. I'm glad that you're getting two more Guardians to help you out. And Tanya, what's your day-to-day? You know, and I'm particularly interested in the story of you traveling with some narwhal reporters through your proposed protected area and intervening on a fire. How did that happen?
Yeah, that was an interesting day. We were out on the Kachika River just getting some video footage and taking them into some of the area of the protected area that the Casca have identified. So there was the 2 reporters, myself and Jillian Stavely, and Elder Robbie Porter, who was our boatman. So we were nearing, there's a place called Racing River that comes into the Kachika, and we stopped there for lunch and could notice some smoke coming up. So Jillian kind of hiked back while we were all getting off on the land there, and she did a little hike and realized it was an old campsite that I'm not sure if it was a campfire that was left there or if it was a lightning strike, but the whole campsite was burnt. The tarps were still there, so they were all melted, and there was still some flames going up. So we had some bins in the boat that we just filled with water, myself and Robbie and Jillian and put out what we could and GPSed it and reported it back to the BC Fire department as soon as we got back for them to have a look at it. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. So they did get some good footage and a little bit of a story there to tell. So they were pretty excited, and it was really nice to bring them into that beautiful side of the country. And yeah, they really enjoyed it. And as for the daily operations, right now I'm doing a lot. I do a lot of the data management for the 3 Guardian Network programs. So within our Survey 123, compiling all that, creating maps, scheduling, getting ready for our field season. We just recently did interviews for a new hire for the Lore Post program, as well as the Good Hope Lake will be hiring a new Guardian as well. So we're pretty excited about that. We have the 3 full-time Guardians in Quadacha who are going to be going through a bunch of training. We're always doing networking and working with different governments, the Yukon government, the province of BC under a collaborative stewardship framework. So it's a pretty busy day, and we're getting into our field season. So I'm pretty excited about that. We'll be doing some invasive plant monitoring and training, setting up our hydrometric stations with data loggers, and getting the water sampling started in the placer mining areas near Good Hope Lake, BC. So yeah, it's getting pretty busy and pretty exciting, and looking forward to getting back out on the land again.
Thanks, Tanya. And William, what's your day-to-day look? I do want to acknowledge, William, that your community and the community of Jean Marie River within the Deschaux have recently, unfortunately, faced some serious flooding. And I know that the Guardians have been active in being a response to that flooding. But generally speaking, what is your day-to-day like?
Well, every day as an Adegi Guardian is just so intriguing, because there's always something new to learn. There's always something new to take home with me, because I never had these opportunities when I was younger. I never got to learn from my elders or anything like that. But now as a Guardian, I get to do this on a daily basis. And there's just something so powerful about learning all this stuff I've missed throughout the years. And this past year, we've been focusing on trading up all the Guardians in the Deschaux and making sure everything's up to date with our firearms license, with our predator defense licenses. And here in Fort Simpson, we've been working on breaking a trail to make 3 new cabins in the Adegi, so we can do monitor all year round with easy access. And then we've been training up to use wildlife cameras and audio recording in, so we could do wildlife monitoring and bird monitoring, so we know what kind of animals are out there in the Adegi year round, and to see if there's any impact on potential invasive species like mountain lions coming up from down in Alberta, and deer and stuff like that. And I've been busy this past few weeks with the flooding in the community, and I've been nonstop trying to work and help around the community with cleanup and stuff and assisting. And I've been helping with the donations towards Jean Marie and further communities up north as well.
Thanks, William. And for anybody who wants to know how to contribute to the communities of Williams Lake, of Litequay and of Jean Marie River, you could find that on the Canadian Red Cross has opened some support services, and there is also an online GoFundMe page that has been prepared by Patrick Scott. I'm sure you could find that on Google for those of you who want to contribute to the community's efforts in rebuilding post the most serious flood since 1989 that they've seen. Amber Lee, what's your day-to-day like? And tell us a little bit more. I know you guys are quite active on the forestry file, and I'm really curious to know, as a forester, what your day-to-day is like related to forestry.
Right. Wakatoan is still very young, and this year we're trying to unroll our Guardian programming for the first time, I would say, and it's pretty exciting. We've hired on 5 Guardians actually for this summer, and we have a lot of exciting projects lined up, and that's kind of like my duty, I guess, to coordinate and plan and make it all happen. And my job, I find, is very dynamic, changes seasonally. We have so many partnerships and collaborations with a variety of different programs, and it brings a lot of diversity to our programming. And so like a month ago, I was tapping birch trees, and we're going to be starting our youth very soon. And in 2 weeks, we'll be learning how to fabricate solar thermal collectors. And we're going to be installing 4 units on our local First Nation communities this summer, and learning how to maintain those systems and the benefits of it. We're also going to be, in a couple of weeks, harvesting materials to build a traditional birch bark canoe. And we're going to be doing that at the end of the summer, and then hosting workshops with the excess materials over the winter and such. And there's so much going on. Like, I love hearing about everybody else's work too. It's exciting. For forestry, we were working with industry partner locally on their herbicide alternative programs, reducing the use of herbicides and doing surveys. And we're developing a moose monitoring program, which we're hoping to implement next summer. And we're going to be doing some testing this summer, to build on that. We're going to be doing medicine monitoring, mapping values using technology, and really trying to, create that knowledge transfer, like opportunities for that, and try to have our elders working with our youth the best that we can in, a time when we're not really allowed to do that. So yeah, we have a lot of exciting stuff, and it's different day to day, and I'm really looking forward to starting soon. So yeah.
Thanks, Amberly. I'm really curious when you guys are first meeting with community members and elders, how do you tell them about the work that you do? What does that sound like? And what is the conversation that emerges from them when you explain that you are land guardians? William, what's that like for you?
Explaining to the elders that what I do is just telling them that I'm living the lifestyle that they had lived a long time ago, but as a newcomer, it's more like not living it, but experiencing it firsthand, because I never had this opportunity. And every time I tell them this, they get so filled with joy knowing that there's people out here all across Canada that work towards the improvement of our people and our history as a nation itself. And when I talk to them, I usually offer them a piece of tobacco, a bit of tobacco as well, because they love being received gifts and stuff like that. And I ask them for any assistance or any mentorship I ask for any mentorship that they can provide to me, because I'm still fairly new at this, even though I've been at this for a long time. There's still things I don't know. There's still things I'm still struggling to learn with after all these years. Like, I still can't speak fully Self-Slavey, but that one day I want to learn and do an immersion program and getting into all that. Thank you.
Well, I hope that you succeed in that goal, William. Amberly, what's it like to you when you're, talking with community members in the communities that you work with and explaining the work that you're doing, and what's the reaction like from people you're talking to?
I would say people are really, really excited. They have a lot of questions. They want to get involved. They're wondering why they weren't involved the whole time. Sometimes, they always want to be involved in future. And also, it's kind of like disbelief almost, because it's such a powerful program. And so everything about it is good, it's positive, and they're drawn to it. Everyone's drawn to it.
How about you, Shauna? And I think about, I know you've had a lot of people ahead of you who have blazed the trail and, through the Taku land use planning process. And, I think about the beautiful Sue, my good friend, and her work there. What's that like when as you discuss with the community, the work that you do, and since the community has been more familiar with the model of Guardians, has that kind of thinking evolved over time from the community as to what the potential of Guardians is?
yeah, so I think like it's there's like, it feels like I guess for myself, it feels like I'm really, really excited and grateful to be part of like this next generation of land protectors. Because in my community, I think we've really dedicated a lot of like the last 30 years really solely to land protection. And with that, we haven't been able to really focus on our healing journey and everything. And so getting to this place now, it's kind of, we're recognizing our ability to really decolonize our program and really make the program to what our community actually needs. And so what we're seeing is like, we need more support in cultural areas. We need more support in social and health to address mental health. And we're able to, use our voices and collaborate within language programs, or really just being able to get people out on the land. And I think that's something that's really present in some of our guardians is we've been doing this our whole life. And we're now in a place where we're getting recognized for that. And we're able to empower our youth with it. And so it's a really exciting time. I often speak with my grandma, and it feels like I'm just really, she's really passed on that torch. Like a lot of the interviews I get to go over, my grandma did those interviews. And I remember seeing her transcribe those interviews hanging out in her office as a little girl. And so it's really taking on that responsibility. And yeah, it's really exciting stuff. And so our community is really excited with the possibilities.
Thanks, Shauna. And how about you, Tanya, when you're talking and speaking with Kaska elders right across Kaska territory, what's that feel like, and what's the reaction from folks when you talk about your work?
It's been really positive. The programs are built from community and elder and youth input, and their voices are being heard for concerns that are happening out on the land. A lot of people don't know where to report those or how to go about it. So having the Guardian program has really created a connection with the community members and making sure that those concerns are reported. And it also helps with building relationships with the province and different networks. So I think it's been really positive. We have the options of community members or youth that want to come out and just see what we're doing out in the field, whether it be water monitoring, just to come check out the equipment, or if they're curious, that we have that option. And we did get a lot of input from that. And it was really nice just having youth, you see the change in them after, they go out on the land and they're spending the day with us and the elders, and you see the change in them and how happy they are, and just having that connection, which I find sometimes it's lost in our communities. So I really think the Guardian program is really strong in bringing that back. And if we had unlimited funding, I think we would have a lot more youth and community members involved in the programs. This year we're looking at hosting a Guardian camp and with a youth portion of it, so to bring people in on what the Guardians are doing, and utilizing more remote areas within our traditional territory. So I'm pretty excited about that, and hoping we can keep you guys updated on how that goes, and pretty excited about that.
Thanks, Tanya. Now I'm curious about your interactions with Canadians and how you see your work impacting and benefiting other Canadians and your neighbors around you. Like, what does that look like? To give you an example, I know that, in the first year of the establishment of Taidinanene, that the Nihatni spent almost $500,000 in Yellowknife alone in equipment as a benefit locally. And so, huge impacts into local business as a result of this work. So I'm curious, what does it look like when you meet other land users on the land and talk to them about the work that you're doing? And how do you see that work, benefiting Canada as a whole? I'll turn to you, Tanya.
The Guardian program, we have a lot of interaction during the hunting season. Sometimes it's a good interaction, sometimes not so much. We get land users who are, don't want to meet with us or talk with us and think that we're there to not build relationships or, just protecting the land and making sure there's no environmental concerns and keeping wildlife protected. So I think trying to build strong relationships with all land users is definitely a goal for our Guardian program as well as our nation. The Guardian programs aren't just for us in the protection of what we're doing, it's protection of wildlife and waters and the land base for all Canadians. So I'm just hoping, that goal and that those words get out to everyone across Canada, that these Guardian programs are so important in the protection and the work that we're doing is so vital to, the land base. I'm just hoping that, we have better input. We like getting out there and meeting with people, and I'm hoping to do that year round, not just during the hunting season, because we have people coming up to the territories all times of the year, and, creating that relationship and being constant about it, I think is really, truly important. So hoping that's something that we work towards together and see it with a great outcome.
Thanks, Tanya. And what's that like for you, Amberly? You live in a part of Ontario that has commercial forestry. You've got mining activities just north of you guys. And to the east. You are, in a very kind of active and very dynamic environment. So what does that look like to interact with that environment and those people, and how do you see your work contributing to Canada?
Well, to me, like, again, we're still pretty young, but I feel like I'm learning like a lot. We're raising awareness to some of the issues, that exist, and all Guardian programs are unique to the regions they exist in, and we're gaining attention of the people that we need to, and people are willing to partner up and to contact us to try to find solutions and work together, I guess. And I think that our culture is so beautiful. It's all about balance and sustainability. And at the end of the day, it's like Tanya says, like, we all need fresh air to breathe. We need clean water to drink, and, healthy food on the table. Like, I think we need to protect what matters, and that's what the Guardian program is.
Thanks, Amberly. And how about for you, Shauna?
I can say, like, in the recent years, like, it's getting more, just having the presence on the land. I know, like, doing land user surveys in the fall during hunting season, like, we've, before it we were presented with a little bit of resistance. I'm not saying everything's perfect now, but we're coming into times now where we have hunters coming up from the lower mainland. My area is in like the most northern community in BC, and so we're really displaced kind of, but we still have BC resident hunters come all the way up to our territory. And so our presence on the land over the years, we have been able to start building these relationships with these land users, and they're starting to recognize us and say hello, and that's it's different. And so that's changing my how I see people coming into the territory. And I always used to be really resistant to any newcomers coming into the territory, but being able to really have those times to build those relationships and get to know people, and then share our information through these relationships are really important. I had something else in here I wanted to, sustainable development goals. So I really, I was thinking about that. And so earlier this year, I was able to participate in a sustainable development goal, international development goal training. And so I sat with it for a long time. There's 17 sustainable development goals out there. And I think one of the hardest things that I had with it was trying to figure out what or how Guardian programs didn't contribute to any of those. You know, to me, it feels like they cover all of it. When I'm looking at sustainable development goals, I really feel like they can be based in Indigenous values and knowledge. And so how do we bring that? How do we share and bring our knowledge, our good medicine to the rest of the world, because it's there? And so I really think through Guardian programs, like this is the opportunity where we're able to tap into some of that medicine. And so it's really exciting stuff.
Thank you, Shauna. You preempted my question on sustainable development goals. Good for you. By the way, I noticed that you're wearing the Country Needs People t-shirt. Country Needs People is our sister campaign in Australia, where it has been supporting the work of Australian Rangers, which of course have been a huge inspiration to Guardians here in Canada. And so just a shout out to our friends at Country Needs People. I don't know if there are some of you online, but please let us know if you're here. We'd love to say hi. And William, how about for you? You know, you live in an area, Adégie is a national wildlife area, which is a designation by Canada to you know, protect that area for the interest of designated wildlife. You have your nation has been involved in the replacing of the Enbridge pipeline work, you know, across the Mackenzie Valley pipeline. Those are pretty significant moves. Like, what's your vision on that and your contribution to Canada?
Well, back in 2018 when it all began, this is when our first Detroit Region Guardian program first started up, and little was known about it. And it was through my experience of learning our responsibilities and what we do, I was able to share those with the fellow workers in the Line 21 encampments and get them and have them further understand why we're here and what's the importance of our roles in helping with the assistance of the replacement. And through that, I was able to tell my experience through that to other First Nations leaders in Nanaimo, actually, when I was there this past 2 years for school. And I got to learn through other Guardians down there on their experiences, and I was able to do a little bit of networking, almost like networking. But we traded ideas and how we can improve the Deitcho as a guardian movement as a whole. And through that, I got to learn how to do more patrolling and practices through the Nanaimo folk. And for my vision for Canada is that hopefully that we could be a nationwide strength. That I'm losing my train of thought here, but it's hopefully we could be recognized nationwide as a whole, that we're here to stay, and that it's our time to shine.
Wow, thank you, William. You know, we've only got a few closing. What do we got? We've got a few minutes left. Sorry, it's getting late in the day. I'm in Labrador. It's late for me. But I thought, you know, for our last question, I want to know, what is your vision for your nations? And why do you love being Guardians, and how do you contribute to that vision for your nation, for the future of your nation? What do you want your grandchildren to have in front of them as their opportunities? Let's go to Amber Lee.
Well, to me, the guardianship's all about protecting the lands and waters, and, you know, respecting this beautiful planet that we live on, and, you know, revitalizing the culture and preserving it. And, you know, these are things that really matter to me. And I just feel really honored to work with, you know, all the inspirational and passionate, you know, Indigenous leaders that I'm surrounded with. And I just think that everybody needs that, you know, and it's empowering to have so many partners believe in us and in what we're doing. And I want everyone to have access to what I, you know, what I'm going through and what I have, and access to the knowledge and the experiences, and the future of the earth, I guess, is kind of the goal, that we can work together and, you know, become become the partners that we were always meant to be, because we're stronger together, and like the Guardian programs will help us get there.
Tanya, what's your vision for your daughter? You've got a young daughter who's, you know, just facing the world, and how do you see your work contributing to her future and that of your nation?
So with the Guardian work that I do, you know, it's helped me with trauma, grief and loss of siblings, family members, friends, and I find it a way of healing. Going out on the land with elders and learning that culture and language, which I hadn't done before. And I think that's really important to instill in our youth. And I talk with my daughter about the work that I do and how important it is to me. And I get really emotional when I talk about the Guardian program, and when I'm out on the land with the elders and that connection you have, it's almost emotional. Just being out there and learning the ways that they did. Our elder Robbie Porter that we go out with is just amazing. It's just like, you don't want the day to end because there's so much to learn, and the wealth and knowledge that he has is just unbelievable. And it's just like, that's the way our people used to live. So I think, you know, it is to the youth and community members to be brought back into that and to instill it back, you know, with our culture, our language. We incorporate the Kaska language into the surveys that we use, just so people start getting more used to identifying with it and using it. So I think, you know, it's really important and to sustain the waters and the land and the wildlife for, you know, my daughter's children and her children's children. To start thinking about that, because, you know, just the way things are going today, especially with COVID and climate change, it's scary. It's scary to think that, you know, if I'm gone, my daughter and her family are still going to be here to deal with all that. So the importance behind it and bringing back culture and living those ways again, I think is super important.
Thank you, Tanya. And how about for you, William? What's your vision for the Date Show? And how are you excited about contributing to that vision?
My vision for the Date Show is that we can inspire other communities up north here to get onto the movement and start like bringing themselves up and hopefully revitalizing our lost culture, because a lot of youth my age and younger do not exactly know what it means to be Dene First Nations, nor do we all understand the language. And I'm trying to help build that up and give my children and hopefully my grandchildren the opportunity to live a lifestyle that I never had, to learn the teachings that I never fully grew up with. And only now that I'm starting to experience these things on a personal level. And hopefully one day we could provide the future that we all want to see for all First Nations of Canada. And hopefully they could live the lives that they want to lead and be the leaders that they want to be. Thank you.
Thanks, William. And Shauna, you get the last word. What's your vision for the Taku River Tlingit and your work contributing to that? And how does that make you feel?
My favorite. I think my vision for the Taku River, and I guess like all Indigenous communities and Guardian programs, would be to I'm a really big, firm believer in Indigenous knowledge hubs. You know, being able to come together on our traditional territories, in our sacred places, to come together with Western sciences and traditional knowledge to address things like education, mental health, wellness, and climate action. I think being able to do these things on the land will really facilitate our reconnection and that reconciliation with Mother Earth that we're not just Indigenous people are needing, but we need this globally. And so, yeah, land-based healing.
Well, with that, I just want to give you a heartfelt Chinishkubit now. Thank you so much for being willing to have this conversation with me and being so candid and open and honest and being willing to share all of your stories. We can't thank you enough. Honestly, it's been one of my favorite conversations of the week. I think it will remain that way. For those of you in the audience, I know there were a few questions. Thank you very much for your comments on the chat. Please send us your questions. We will do our best during the whole gathering to make sure that some of those are addressed. And if not, we will find a way to make sure that you get an answer to the questions that you've asked. And just, again, a big, big heartfelt thank you. Enjoy the rest of the gathering, guys. I hope that you will participate actively. Your voices are so important. And may I say, and this is no exaggeration, I'm excited for the future of this country.
I am calling because my
Jen, you're on muted, Jen. Thank you. So that the future of this country is in good hands with you, and I am excited for my own children and grandchildren to know that you guys are doing the work that you're doing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, tech gurus. At this time, I would like to re-invite our good friend Nijitsul to the screen. And Nijitsul, I know, has been actively listening to these stories and hearing all of these great inputs. So Nijitsul, how's it going? And tell us more about your drawing.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing panel. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Val. It was just so inspiring. You're kind of getting a behind the scenes view of my process. So I'll just kind of lay out where we sort of started. And you'll see a final of this tomorrow morning when you join us back again. But this is sort of the progress shot. So this morning, we had a beautiful fire feeding ceremony. And I thought that was a really beautiful way to talk about the 215 missing children and in remembrance. So I thought that was a really beautiful opening for us to always kind of remember and keep with us. And there was a beautiful quote that was given. It was, "We may not see our ancestors here, but they are standing with us." And as someone who just not so long lost my Juju, my grandmother, I thought that was a really beautiful message for today. We then moved into a sharing circle with some guardians, some very passionate guardians. We heard from Shauna, Tanya, Amber Lee, and William. And so I've done a couple little portraits of them. And underneath, I'm going to add some of their more important points. So for example, with Shauna, she was talking about how this experience for her opened doors, connected her to the community. She talked about her vision of Indigenous knowledge hubs and basically land-based healing and the importance of that. Tanya was really lovely to hear from because she was talking about the voices and being heard from the voices of the land and creating, again, that connection with community members and provinces and networks. She has a very big vision for her future, which is based in the healing of trauma and having that healing take place on the land. She also talked about how it's really beautiful to see the youth coming back and inspiring more to be a part of this Guardians work. Amber Lee left us with, she talked a lot about like her skills she first originally had and how her bundle and those skills grew over those 11 summers she spent with the minister. She talked about a very powerful vision that the partners that they've developed and seeing that more come into play creates that power behind them and that motivation to keep going. William was lovely and he spoke about his vision as well and talking about a nationwide being recognized on the national scale. And he said, "We are here to stay and it's our time to shine." So I'll leave you with those words. And again, you'll see a final of this tomorrow.
Well, thank you so much, Nijitsul, for giving us a preview. I know artists don't always like to do that until things are kind of tied up with a bow. So we really appreciate getting kind of the peek under the hood, as they say, and good luck overnight. And we look forward to seeing the product tomorrow morning. So thank you very much. Now it is our closing moment. And in order to do that, I'd like to introduce a good friend, one of my favorite people and colleague, Michelle Audette. Michelle, some of you may know, is not only an amazing land defender, women's rights defender, she's also the former commissioner for the Missing, Murdered, and Indigenous Women and Girls and Two-Spirited Persons Commission. She's a former deputy minister in status of women for Quebec, former president of the Native Women's Association of Canada. I could go on and on. Just know she is wonderful. And she has taken the time to pre-record some closing thoughts for your benefit. And with that, I will wish you a good evening. And we will see those of you who are participants tomorrow again. So, thank you.
Kui everyone, I'm here from the Atikamekw territory and also Abenaki territory in Three Rivers. I just want to say thank you so much for Elder Antoine for your ceremony. Probably it's virtual for many of us or many of the people, but for the Indigenous people, we know exactly how it feels and how we feel when we participate to a protocol or to a ceremony. Merci beaucoup. I want to say thank you to all the elders that are making sure that your knowledge is shared to our generation and the generation that we carried as a mother. Thank you so much for the guardians. Because of you, we can say loud and proud that we are protecting Mother Earth, that we are the guardians of this amazing, amazing and important place where this place for thousands of years is making sure that our Indigenous rights are still alive and vibrant. Merci infiniment. So today also we're supposed to celebrate the Indigenous History Month, or the month of the Indigenous history in Canada. It is tough, to be honest, to celebrate something when we just heard and felt the loss of 215 little spirit, knowing that there is more and more and more across Canada. And as we speak, maybe you don't see this beautiful guardian, the daughter of Joyce Echaquan, who is here at the court in Trois-Rivières to listen every words of what the witnesses has to say about the death of her mom on September 2020. So let's have love for many families. I have love for my friends here, and please, guardian, be proud of what you do and what you do, not only for your family, but for an entire country. And I hope that one day when we'll meet, we'll have more new faces. And let's hope that also here in Quebec, so-called Quebec, we will have a beginning of a generation like you guys, because it's so needed. Je vous dis merci, merci.